Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett, here as always with Kyle. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fabulous. We got a huge patch today. The only thing that's not fabulous right now is that I want to be playing and learning too many characters in Heroes. And I feel like I'm always out of time and missing out.
That is, I feel it. I feel it, Kyle. I, too, am feeling that pull. And it's not just because, okay, it's a little bit because there's some really cool skins in the game now for certain heroes. I'm looking at you, Cassia.
Yeah, skins help. Skins help. Yeah, I'm waiting on the refresh of the Mecha Storm event so I can get my Mecha Urel because I've been putting a lot of work into that. I had some great listeners write into me and tell me some guides, which has just been fabulous. Really figuring out that character and just having a good time playing off tank, which was my big discovery of the week.
Off tank.
Yeah.
What is an off tank, Kyle?
Well, an off tank is the one doing the real tanking because they're actually taking care of the team while the tank engages nonstop.
Okie dokie then. So what are you not bringing a bruiser, or are you doing that with a bruiser?
No, I'm doing that with a bruiser mostly, but it can be done by any warrior of the old label. Basically, our tanks, our Johannas, our ETCs are always having to go forward right now, pretty deep forward, mainly because of all those orb buildly Mings that are throughout the game. But that leaves Samuro in your back line. So who's going to take care of the actual squishies while, Johanna's got 4 people on her and, bless her, she's doing a good job. She's got 4 people on her, it's busy up there, but someone's got to handle this damn Sammy. And that falls on Thrall. That falls on Zool, Urel, Imperius. And I'm really enjoying the actual tactical battle of that, mainly because of this new, and it's not that new, but it's just everywhere. It's disgusting. Inting. Everyone loves saying inting. Oh, I inted, you inted, he, she inted. It's a mess out there, Garrett, and I'm sick of this word already. It means intentionally dying. I thought it meant engaging because people accuse themselves, but you're not intentionally dying. You're trying to do something cool, right? And then you died, but you're like, well, sorry for inting. It's like, what? How is it intentional when it was a mistake?
It's meme status, Kyle.
I don't like it.
No one can accuse you of inting if you are like, sorry, I inted. Because you're self-declaring, you're self-deprecating.
But we have the word feeding. We don't need this new word. I've got issues, Garrett. That and running it down. I'm hearing that all the time, too. Oh, they're too busy running it down. Running it down is an excellent, awesome phrase, but it's being used in a negative way, and I don't like it.
I'm not seeing running it down. I've seen a little bit of inting. And really, I think what this truly is, Kyle, is we're watching you yell at children from your front porch. That's what we're seeing right now. Damn kids!
Right, I'm on my front porch.
Don't you int on my front porch? That's feeding. Back in my day, that was called feeding.
You feeding, son? No, Dad, I'm inting. What? Turn off that.
I'm gonna need one of those images that parents share in chain emails that explains what certain things in text form mean. It's like, do you know what the is inting is the new eggplant emoji? We need to decipher this, Kyle. We need to figure out what it means so we can reach these kids.
Oh, we got to reach the kids, and they've got new toys like Tracer that they can int all day on. So we should probably get to this patch.
Not sure that word means what you think it means. Yeah, let's do it. We got to.
I used it right there, right? Yeah, they're inting. They're running it down, and then they inted because they were sweaty. I'm down with the kids, Garrett.
Well, just make sure you dab while you're inting, Kyle, and you're going to be the coolest kid. You're going to be the coolest chaperone at the homecoming dance.
You kids want to dab with me?
Well, folks, before we get into what is going to be a very meaty episode where we just dissect the May 6th balance patch, because to bring in a phrase that Kyle absolutely hates, the Heroes of the Storm is a living and breathing thing. So we want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. That is where you can go and support this very program, this very podcast, and by extension, Kyle and myself. So if you like what we're doing and you want to chip in $1 or $2 or a lot more, we're not going to stop you. And we very much appreciate the support. Every bit helps. So check it out, patreon.com/ITN. Get access to the Patreon Discord, ad-free feed whenever we have episodes with ads on them. You don't have to hear them when you get over there on the Patreon feed. And to some of our most recent patrons, thank you to the Persian Gamer, Nate, just Nate, no last name given, and Gabriel Guavera. Thank you very much for the support, you three. And again, support Into the Nexus over at patreon.com/ITN. Let's get into it, Kyle. This week's news, which is basically only going to be us talking about the balance patch.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
I am muted. Yes, we got a patch just yesterday, Kyle. And if you listen to my other show, The Angry Chicken, you know I was not feeling so hot yesterday. I actually basically took a sick day outside of recording The Angry Chicken. So I was laid up in bed for most of yesterday. Feeling a lot better today, but it means I personally haven't had a ton of time to experience this patch, and there's even portions of this, because it was so long, I will be seeing for the first time today. So some of this stuff you're going to get my gut reaction on.
Dude, that's fine. This is another brave new world we entered. There's a lot of moving parts here, including the tower change, 2 reworks, and all the other hero balance, which is very tactical. This is a very well thought out patch, and I definitely include it with that recent patch pile we've had over the last, year and a half now. These are not just pet projects like they once were. These are full-blown balance philosophies that kind of go through and clean up the game. And in that mindset, they adjusted the towers for the call to help anomaly, and they've done some things to make them less dangerous while still maintaining that we want it to be instantly readable idea.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting here. They did something here with Call to Help that I did not see coming, and I feel kind of dumb because it seems kind of geniusly simple. But first off, let's just go in order of how they listed the changes here. First off, tower fort and keep structure damage has been reduced by 10% across the board. You're not going to be getting hit as hard. Still doing the armor stacking debuff. That has not been adjusted. Structures also now are only going to focus their attacks on enemy heroes if they attack an allied hero who is also in the range of said structure. This is the part that seems so kind of geniusly simple that I'm mad neither of us suggested it.
Yeah. So if you had an extreme long range ability, you can now use it on distant targets. The real thing here is that we aren't changing summons. So if Gazlo or Zagara has something wailing in a distant lane on a hero, you are now safe to enter that tower range.
Yeah. This is great. This is the kind of this is easy to understand, right? Like that's one line that you can quickly explain how this works to the entire player base. It's just like, well, how does this work? Well, are you in range of the tower? Yeah. Is the enemy hero you just hit in range of the tower? Yeah. Well, you're getting targeted. Are either of you not in range? No. Well, then yes, then you're not getting targeted. Like it's that simple. So Gazlo turrets left in other lanes, lingering poisons, Asmodan orbs from out of nowhere. You don't need to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. As a matter of fact, speaking of those lingering poisons, that got a specific rule added in that periodic damage over time will no longer cause structures to focus heroes. Kyle, how much, if this was the Heroes of the Storm stock market, how much did Lunara's stock just go up?
Sure, Lunara, Nazebo, both of them were greater affected by this because of their siege output. Lunara with, Nature's Culling, which is actually really interesting for Lunara. She's having a resurgence in the solo lane as a Rexar counter. So watch yourself there, Garrett. She's doing really, really well, siphoning Toxin to keep her health up. Or if she doesn't need that at all, she actually gets to go her Noxious Blossom talent, which gives it more range Blossom Swell. And she's beating Ragnaroses and Rexars and just doing some cute stuff out there. So Lunara, the stock is up. Buy. Nazebo is probably right where he was, but now you can do a bunch of business in tower range and not fear making him mad all the time.
Sounds good. Thank you for making me afraid of Lunar.
You're welcome.
Really needed that. Really needed. Thank you so much too, by the way, for stirring everyone up to start thinking about Rexar counters on Twitter. I don't know how I hurt you and why it cut so deeply, but I feel targeted.
I mean, I've got a big philosophy right now. It's that you shouldn't do a bruiser versus Rexar. You should do an assassin, and Kira's really good at it too. But anyway, enough about putting Garrett down. Let's they data mined out everything that it works in this environment, which could count as kind of a poison, even though it might not be nature, in your bloodstream. Generic burning rages, locust swarm, plasma burn, ring of fire, all these things that put fire around you or some sort of AoE damage like Leoric gets in the late game is now perfectly fine. Stitch's gas flare. These will not be upsetting buildings. So if you ETC echo pedal, you heal yourself and now you're going and you slide in. Well, don't hit a hero, but walk in. If that AoE damages a hero, the building won't be upset about it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And again, easy to understand. This isn't some very specific exception, right? This is something that's pretty easy to across the board understand what is and is not affected by this. So,
which makes this the right step at this point. We're just cleaning up the business. It's interesting that they took the towers, forts, and keep damage back to its old value, though we kept the armor. And there's been some interesting thoughts about do we still need the armor? Is the armor working? Is just targeting enough? I've heard a cool idea that maybe we could give armor to allies instead, make it a defensive bonus in a defensive way rather than...
I don't like that one as much. I've seen it too. That one doesn't seem as interesting to me because I like that there's a danger when there's not a hero present and just generally pushing a lane. And the importance on map awareness that I feel that brings to the game. I kind of dig that it's still a little dangerous.
Yeah, my big thought with it is I don't want to feel restricted as a tank. So when for ease of example, when I see someone on my wall there and I power slide out of tower range but push them into it, I'm making an aggressive thought rather than thinking to myself, well, I can't do that because I'm going to leave tower aura and I'll lose my armor. That thought restricts me more than this does in a defensive moment, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. It is certainly a cool way to look at it, but I've been thinking about it a bit since I've seen that batted around, and I don't think I think it's one of my least favorite suggestions, even though I do think it's pretty creative and it's an angle I haven't thought of.
Yeah, could be a cool angle for certain maps, maybe.
Yeah, but am I the odd man out, dude? I feel like I really like this anomaly, and I keep hearing from a lot of people who could not disagree more.
You do have to control yourself, which is not easy. It's one more thought. I mean, look at the bans on Kael'thas sort of thing. No one wants to deal with the living bomb. One more thing to think about all the time. That'd be my guess. I'm with you in that I'm really enjoying this. I like the mini game of when can I engage. I really like the feeling of danger when I'm attacking. And I see, I've been doing this a lot on Thrall, when I win Fury in, hold my lightnings off, but I'm using that on a building. It's like, come on, let's get the building down. That feels right now to burn the building rather than team fight and then walk away as it has 25% health. The game is informing itself in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't really have very specific things that have been bothering me that I would like to see adjusted, but I also don't think that the anomaly as launched was perfect. I think it'd be very surprising if it was, right? That they got it right on the first shot. So I really like the changes that they've made today because for me, a big part of what I like about this is the stacking armor debuff. It is scary, as you said. And I like the extra tactical decisions that you need to make if you're going to push in on structures that debuff enforces. I don't think the structure damage was really the dangerous portion here. It was just a little bit extra, a little bit too much, I think, on top of the armor debuff. So I think this is a really great place to start, is reining in that tower damage and then cleaning up exactly how the tower aggro functions. So I'm really happy with this update too. I think they're, to me, I think they're kind of hitting the nail on the head with this anomaly. I'm very happy with it so far.
I agree. Tanks can tank. You can put up a shield on Johanna, pop some armor on another character, and willingly absorb the aggro. And that's very World of Warcraft. It feels good. You have a time limit, but it's not on the tower. It's on the enemy team killing you with the minus armor. So, whew, good job.
Yeah. One little exception on the flip side of how happy I am with this. Towers of Doom. Not mentioned at all. Any thoughts? Do you think they just think it's fine?
I think we're making sure it's clean and all about understanding it from map to map. So for now, I understand their delay. Towers of Doom. When people are D'ing that thing anyway, when you actually succeed in getting your team to do a 4-man in the bottom with a double soak in the top, you're kind of on the path to winning in the first place. So Tower of Doom has actually fallen down my tier list of change this now. Sky Temple is on top, and I'm still very concerned about that guy.
Okay, interesting. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, right? Maybe we'll poke AZ Jackson for a follow up and do like a
there we go.
State of the Anomaly.
I like it.
Where I know that sounds like good content for everyone, but really I just selfishly want to ask him very specific questions that only I care about.
Sure. Well, that too.
So
we did get a map change, which I think made us think, well, why not other maps? But this is completely unrelated to the anomaly itself.
Oh, without a doubt. Great way to move on to Hanamura, which did see some changes. They're trying to move a little bit of the power pie in favor of the objective and away from the samurai camp. They did say in the dev comment that the samurai camp having the level of power that it has had was intentional. But now after quite a bit of time, they kind of want to start scooting the objective a little more into the how important it is, and that's exactly what they did here. The objective missile damage has been increased by 100, went from 1800 to 1900, and the samurai camp, which is the bigger, I think, more important change here, has been nerfed. The laner version health has been reduced quite substantially from 8,000 down to 7,000 and change, and laner version health scaling has been reduced by 10%. So it's going, once it's in lane, it's going to go down a lot quicker if it's being focused.
It's a interesting map. Li Ming is just wild right now. Absolutely insane. I'd say she was my most banned hero of the week. It's fascinating to talk to people plat and below who are getting raged at for doing orb builds, even though that's all we see right now. She and her poke buddies, Hanzo and Lunara, are just running rampant on this map right now. And I'm having a hard time, I mean this in the best possible way, enjoying it, Hanamura. I don't know how I would fix it. We talked about buildings in the past. We talked about the layout, some trees, some bushes. It's a tough sell. And I feel like getting rid of the samurai. Go for it.
There's been the first thing that pops in my mind is like, is there anything out there we can compare this to? Right, battlegrounds that have very specific heroes that are overly powerful and therefore feel overly punishing if you don't get them or ban them out. Right, and to me, Battlefield of Eternity immediately pops to mind, and the changes that were put in place for some of these heroes that were just too good at burning the objective. Right. Is it too unique on Hanamura that it's not necessarily that these heroes are too good at the objective? They're just too good at fighting on the layout of this battleground and the way that this, like Li Ming, her strength here comes predominantly from the fact that she can just fire over the damn objective, right? And the objective is, it's hard to engage on Li Ming with the objective between you and her.
That's a good point. I mean, the layout itself is so open that these poke heroes, even when there is terrain, aren't being punished. And that may be it. In all honesty, my answer to those sort of poke heroes is often Diablo. But Diablo ain't got no walls on this map to work in. Battlefield of Eternity, he's got a lot of options, a lot of chokes for ETC and everything else. So maybe it is just a little too wide.
I know just last week, I believe you talked about how this isn't really the game where we move a tree here and we move a bush there, and it's like a really big deal like it is in other MOBAs, but maybe Hanamura, it's time to bring in more collision.
I'm also curious, too, if we can Braxify the samurai camp. And that's a much bigger change. This is all in the right direction. We should be paying a closer attention to the objective, and the samurai should not be the objective itself. But I love in Braxis that you still have to defend. One Ultralisk can go destroy a fort. You address it, and you get back, and that can be addressed by even a low damage here. Like you could send your tank to go clear out that Ultralisk and then rejoin the team. But you have to deal with it. The amount of time a samurai takes to burn down solo is very oppressive. I think we're going to start gaming this. We're going to start Dark Souling the samurai camp, because there's ways to kite it backwards. There's ways to make it swing the wrong direction, which you should be doing in the first place. That's easy. But you can make it chase you a little bit to make sure it stays in mid lane and you get it away from your darn buildings. And we're going to see more and more of that rise as we deal with the Hanamura problem.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I just feel we really haven't, as a community hive mind, had a battleground tactic on lockdown since Haunted Mines. And I wouldn't mind.
You mean like what we should be doing every time?
Yes, right? Like, yeah. It's just like, there is a way that this works, and we all know it. We all agree on it. So say we all.
Yeah, it seems fans' strategy of split pushing away from the objective has kind of adapted to only an early game thing there, which I think is healthy. Battlefield of Eternity, Infernal Shrines, these single push objectives are being taken, and then maybe you put two people with it and the other three go get some building damage done in another lane. Yeah. And then we adapt and push with it in the late game. And that feels fine. I think that's not something we need to yell at everybody about. We don't need to type that out. If we're getting to typing, I'm gonna highlight Towers of Doom as the type-a-thon map. That's the one where, as I said, if you can pull off the double rotate single player in the top mid and the 4-stack in the bottom, you have a much, much higher chance of winning that game.
I really wish I ended up in games where people wanted to do that, because, dude, I am so willing to do that double rotate, and no one ever wants to let me.
I mean, it is lonely. It's much more fun in 5-stack comms where you can, hang out a bit.
Oh yeah, no, that is one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite reasons to play with you, dude, is when I do get to do the solo lane thing by myself. I can check in and be like, "How's it going down there?" I don't need to look. I don't need to spend the mouse clicks checking up on you guys.
Yeah, and this is not about like putting down those maps. We are just continuing our conversation from earlier, and I think this is a great step in the right direction.
Right. I mean, yeah. If you think it's taking too long to kill the samurai, well, it's taking a little less long.
Yeah. That's a good step.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the heroes, man. And I do want to go a little out of order here, because we have been impatiently waiting to see what the hell they were going to do with Tassadar. So let's talk about Tassadar first, and then we'll get to reworks. And so Tassadar, it's been confirmed by the devs that he's underperforming. They said, quote, "So we're buffing up various parts of his kit that relate to his survivability and utility." And you can see that right at the top. If you could look, the very first thing that's listed is the fact that they have upped his health by just a little over 6%. Got about a 6% health buff. Obviously, health regeneration, as it historically is being brought up basically the same amount if we're talking percentages. There's one big outlier on that, by the way, today. Wait till we get there, man. We've never seen such a big divergence between health and health regen when there's been an adjustment, but yeah. But yeah, so more health, going to be a little bit harder to kill Tassadar. And then quite a bit of his base kit got some love. The slow amount on Shock Ray was increased from 25 to 30%. That's actually a 20% increase. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's actually pretty substantial. No adjustment here on what you and I have been focusing on, though, with Shock Ray, which is how vulnerable you kind of are while using this ability.
But that's the trade-off. That is that you are locked into it and you have a talent, the new dimensional shift version, where you can break that if you really want to. And there's counterplay in that too, because it is going to pierce all. So if you can stun it early, it doesn't go to the back line. I think that's fine because we put all that effort into Force Wall and we cleaned it up nicely. Cooldown has been reduced by 14%. Mana cost is down 7%. Cast time is reduced by 37%. Thank you for doing the math, but that's incredible with the birth time, meaning the time it takes to come into existence, down 11%. That's the survivability he needs.
I made it a point to get a Tassadar game in despite being laid out yesterday, and Force Wall feels so much better. I think you probably would you agree with the statement, Kyle, that I'm a Heroes of the Storm player that is turned off by clunk?
Yes.
I don't like clunky
absolutely.
heroes. If my crusade to fix Death Coil has been any indication for literally the lifetime of us doing this show. And yeah, Force Wall felt clunky. It feels so much more like crisp and like controllable now. It's so much more satisfying to use Force Wall, and in the very little experience I've had with this hero post the change yesterday, like you feel kind of like a good trick player. Like I pulled off some ridiculous things with Force Wall because of the change that they made here, because of the cast time reduction, because of the birth time reduction. It just feels crispy, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, some snappiness to it. They went through the level 1 talents and updated them to basically bring them in line with how we were feeling about our Shock Ray talent, which is kind of the go-to right now. Otherwise, it's really all about that Force Wall here, and I think that's the right thing to target at this time.
Yeah. They mess with some talents. Static Charge, I was surprised to see that it was one of the talents that was messed with, because it is the most popular by like a landslide victory. Like no matter what stats website you're looking at, like over on Hotslogs, had almost a 70% pick rate over the past 3 weeks when I was looking at TAS's stats since the rework. This has just been the runaway, but it got a buff. The bonus damage per stack was increased by 1, and the maximum bonus damage was increased from 200 all the way up to 250. So
it's interesting. So it looks like they skipped out. I was actually wrong. So they skipped out on Psi Infusion then and updated the Amulet, which is just trouble. The number of times I've seen Tassadar get into any sort of fort range, target the building, and then it goes off and tickles somebody else and gets mad at him is really difficult.
Yeah, but it got a big buff. Like they're I think trying to lure you in with reward for the risk. Because the damage to additional targets it's been a 50% increase. It went from a 50% bonus to a 75% bonus. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. So I really like it here in Amulet. I really dig it. But you're right. It is still dangerous, but watch your range.
It's fun.
So then Induction got a buff, and Executor's Will at 16 got a buff as well. Executor's Will, if this off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure Executor's Will actually had one of the highest win rates in the talent bracket, but it was not one of the most popular. But the spell power bonus.
Activate to gain a full Resonance Beam charge, 20% spell power, and cause basic and heroic ability cooldowns to generate 25% faster. Oh yeah, that sounds like a good win rate. Just sounds busy. But I wouldn't pick it right now.
yeah, neither would I. But did you play much with Tassadar post this change?
I've played with him, and he is a more respectable pick now. He's still weak to the multi-angle attacks, and I think that's fine. I think it's been a while since we've had a hero who, you can really bring out the Valera on. It's an interesting mage landscape, shall we say, right now. We've got a lot of options, and they're not divided into like, this is the stun mage, this is the slow mage, and this is the sleep mage. Oh my goodness. No, let's never let that happen. Skip that one.
Yeah. Well, I like these Tassadar changes. I'm hopeful. The shock ray still scares me, but I got to be honest. I really haven't touched him since like the first couple of days of his rework, and I forgot how much like a truck shock ray hits.
Yeah,
it hurts. Like it hurts a lot, and so I'm. This forced me, to make sure and go out and get a game in and try it out and see how it feels. And it has reminded me that Shock Ray is a scary ability. So, maybe we shouldn't be so hung up on the trade-off of being vulnerable while using it. So I mean, there's nothing here that's bad for him. This can't do anything but help with Tassadar.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see just how much it helps. More on that next week. Let's move on into the reworks, and let's jump to Cassia, who is leading us off. We got 2 reworks this week, Kyle. 2. And one of them...
skins. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Dude, I immediately bought one of the Cassia skins. Did you see she got a total Kratos variant?
Oh, Cassia's rework made the skin, and the skin likely informed them, like, there is no Diablo Cassia anymore. There are no references to, I know there are still, but you know what I mean. I'm being dramatic here. The references to Diablo Amazon are gone. We have made a lightning Zeus figure out of Cassia. Yeah.
I don't want to move on. I don't want to spend too much time on the skin, but like, I'm so impressed by it. I love that the lightning is like physical. Like it's like a constructed weapon as opposed to just a lightning effect. And then it gets like a nice, awesome effect when she actually throws it. It's just such a nice touch. So well done. Chef's kiss. Great work. I'm just so happy with it. But anyway, getting into the rework, the devs did say that since her release, Cassia has been a great counter pick against teams, bringing multiple basic attackers. When she was being created, they gave us a little history here. The hero designer was working closely with the live design team to find a good niche for her to fill. Since that time, however, our design philosophies have changed, and you have been seeing us pull back from any individual hero being too sharp in their designs. That's wild. I didn't know that. I'm glad that they included that little piece of design history here. And then continued on saying her rework tries to keep her original playstyle intact while also opening up options for players to bring her into more team compositions. And the other goals were that they wanted to enhance her lightning Jabazon fantasy, which I love, and introduce new talent interactions for aficionados who really sink their teeth into.
That wording there, the aficionados, is a very tactical word. We have, since HGC's cancellation, continued to push heroes in a less draft-oriented way. And we are encouraging mains by doing so. Like, I love Cassia. I loved Cassia, and I'm really excited for her to have a rework. I think the fantasy is way better. The idea that I have a shield, the whole animation sort of system that I'm using my shield to block while I fend, and as I move around and the movement suggests that, it really plays into the fantasy. But I also remember running in circles inside of a butcher lamb and not dying at all because I had amazing physical armor, and I patted myself on the back for my sweet draft skills. Now you can just say, oh, Cassia? What, they have mages? Like, what? Who cares? Like, I am a Cassia main in this new rework. That's healthy in one direction. It's kind of sad for those who enjoy the drafting, but I think this is how we play Heroes of the Storm in the first place.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, again, kind of my gut reaction here is I like what they've done. I think it's both of these reworks we're going to talk about today, both Cassia and Tracer. They're not just buffs across the board. It's more there's a lot of give and take here. Like you can tell that they're trying to rework. They're trying to change the hero and kind of adjust their identity in a little bit. And so we're seeing a pretty major health reduction right off the bat here with Cassia, an almost 20% reduction. They're going from 1840 down to 1510. Health regen also happening as well, being adjusted the same amount. But then to counteract that, attack range has been increased and attacks per second has been increased. So you can attack from a little bit further away and you're going to be attacking more often. So you're going to be a little more kind of reliable, a little more guaranteed damage from a safer distance as Cassia. So maybe you won't need the health as much. And really the big thing is here, if I can jump around the balance updates a little bit, is how they adjusted her trait. And there's some really interesting talents that play into the way the trait works, right? So now it's while you're moving unmounted, you gradually gain 30 armor over the course of 3 seconds.
Yep. So 1 second in, you're at 10 armor. It goes blah, 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 reaching that maximum of 30 just armor. We're no longer a physical armor hero. We are all armor while in motion, and you have a set duration where you can stop to auto attack of 0.6 or 0.625, which is an increase over the old one. The interesting thing for Cassia players is that they increased what they called the weapon period, which is basically the time where you can't attack. So Cassia is going to be a very, very unique stutter step. You need to take a lot longer in your movements, and you can get into better positions, which works great with the way your Lightning Fury splits in the first place, or maybe you want to line up a fend. But auto-attacking Cassia is very deliberate. If you stutter step wrong, meaning you fire, step, and try to fire, she's going to wait on that weapon period, lose all her armor, and not fire.
Right.
So
and to correct myself, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The attack per second is actually slower than it used to be, not faster. So a little more clunk.
Oh, yes. So it's a slower, overall, you need to take big, long steps in order to play Cassia and maintain that armor, and that rewards stutter stepping.
Well, here's the thing. You kind of need to, because that armor bonus disappears so goddamn quickly. It is ridiculous. You need to be moving constantly to keep this up. I think it's a little quick. I think it's a little quick how fast the avoidance trait dissipates.
If Cassie is typing in game, she's throwing. Or she's inting. You cannot stop for anything.
Well, Kyle, just
stop moving.
Just so you know, when I walk into tower range, it's because I just set a move command that was so far away that I could actually type out a thought.
I actually shift commanded my whole upcoming fight so I can give you guys this strategy.
Yeah. It's a little, to me, it's a little rough. It's a little rough. I mean, in a perfect world, you can you're basically really incentivized to weave it in with fend as much as possible because you don't lose avoidance while fending. But
which is cool.
But how often are you going to really be able to fend, right? That's a really big commitment to make on Cassia, is when to fend. So as nice as that is, I'd still like to see avoidance, how long before it starts to degenerate. I'd like to see that padded out a bit.
Well, there's nothing stopping you from casting your Lightning Fury, which you now have 2 charges of. The damage is down 14%, but you got those baked in 2 charges.
The 2 charges are great, by the way.
Yeah. And there are even talents in there, much like Tassadar's Beam, where if you hit a spell, you now go up in avoidance. So there are ways to kind of gain or regain avoidance you may have lost. I think that as long as we can cast a Lightning Fury and you auto attack correctly, this is fine. And fend, with its cast range up, with its talents moved around, pauses your avoidance. So you can kind of give away the gig, which is an interesting bit of, counterplay. You can, you see Cassia and she's walking towards you and she's at 15. You're like, well, she doesn't want to fend yet. She wants to be at 30. Now we can start to expect her to fend because it's going to pause. She goes in at 15, it'll stay at 15, and then when she starts moving again, it'll reactivate.
And you as a Cassia can also maybe use that to your advantage, especially on someone that's out of position, to try and surprise them with a fend that they maybe weren't expecting because you're not at 30 armor.
Exactly. And having that 30 armor while you fend, I mean, that was the whole danger of fend. People would get in casting, they go, wow, this is awesome. I love fending. Boop, boop. And then they die. And they'd be destroyed by all the spellcasters because the physical armor wasn't up. They had no armor anyway. The auto attackers would take advantage of it. It was a huge burden in her play style. And I think we've made her more fun. But you're not wrong that the skill... What is this? The skill, it's not even a floor, it's not a ceiling, it's the skill stairs are difficult because the extreme nature of this stutter step.
We're getting into my dislike of clunk.
Yeah, sure.
Got a car analogy for you, Kyle. It's like like I have to drive the car and the wheel doesn't move. It just is where it is, and it was definitely built around someone who was 5 foot tall and I'm 6'1". I'm completely fully extended, and just interfacing with this vehicle isn't an intuitive experience, and that's how it feels a little bit right now driving Cassia.
I'm gonna hit you with another analogy. I don't floss because it's good for my oral hygiene. I can't. You should never, ever do anything in life because it makes you better than anybody else. But that's why I floss. It's the only reason I can come up with to motivate my tired self to take an extra however many minutes of lame butt flossing that I just hate flossing, but I do it because it makes me better than people. And that's why I'm going to play Cassia.
Yeah, I have critiques. There's ways I would really like to see Cassia ironed out, but I do realize there's plenty of heroes in this game where clunk it's the trade-off. It's part of the, like we talked about Chakra. Like that's a trade-off. There's intentional clunk there for a reason. But for me right now on Cassia, like I'm interested. I want to play it, but I think there's just a little bit too much clunk. I am literally, the way I want to build her right now, Kyle, I am taking talents solely to, in my eyes, fix her.
Not a problem, because some of these fixing talents are super duper cool.
Yes, but also, wouldn't it be cool if you could just get avoidance on while mounted to begin with? I feel so forced to take that talent.
I mean, there's a cool stack you can do where your avoidance activates while mounted, and then while I max avoidance, can insta mount. Like that's, I think if we can include that in our fantasy, we'll be in a better spot. I'm with you there. That
one. I guess let me go just a little slightly level deeper here, because that one to me, I don't know, for some reason that one sticks out to me as something that I feel like I just see us in 3 months going, gaining avoidance while mounted has been baked in. Like it just seems like the kind of thing that would have been baked in on another hero in a rework 3 months ago. It just seems like the trend of where reworks and talent cleaning up has gone with the game in 2020.
I've got a counter argument named Garrosh and Alarak. I really dislike that they're so mount oriented. And Diablo to an extent, too. This would probably be more like Diablo if we gave her avoidance while mounted baked in. She would be constantly mounted looking for a good fend, rather than having that kind of tactical counterplay and information for the enemy team we talked about.
I don't share your mount aversion, I guess.
You don't lose your biscuits a little bit when you see Alarak mounted up and then he goes telekinesis discord and then mounts and spins around for the whole cooldown, and then
it's annoying, yeah, but like that's like getting mad at a stealth hero for being stealthed and waiting.
Okay,
it's kind of what Alarak does if you do that build, and that's the way you're. I don't know. I'm out on freaking Rexar all the damn time. I just want my Misha to run faster and surprise people.
Misha already goes so fast. She's speedy. She's speedy.
Yeah, and even speedier when you're mounted up. Why would you not want it to be even faster, Kyle? Why would you? I don't know. To me, there's a give and take, and so much about the conversation of Heroes of the Storm over the past like month, 2 months has been about the game being intuitive, because it's kind of the game, like a big portion of, I think, what's attractive to the game is a lot of it just makes sense, as opposed to something like Dota, which has albeit very high skill floors in certain places, but some of this stuff is extremely unintuitive, but adds to the skill of the game, right? And it's a give and take with Heroes of the Storm, but I don't know, something about like Cassia just being like, telling a Cassia player, why are you mounted? You shouldn't be mounted right now. Get to the objective slower so you arrive with avoidance. Just seems wrong to me.
It's not wrong to ask Lily to do that, though. Like, we have heroes who need to dismount. They don't need to be the first ones in. And please cast your heals before we get there. We don't all need to arrive in glorious procession.
Yeah, but again, that's active,
so
right?
It's a pre-thought.
That's active. That's active. If your healer is dismounting earlier to tap everybody off, that's like an active thing. That makes sense. This is just, I don't know. I'm really hung up on it. As you can tell, we can move on.
No, I feel you. And we said at the top here that, we've got a lot of heroes we want to learn. So having a rework that takes up another fantasy that you might want to have been fulfilled, or a different rework and the hero is not for you, I understand that bummer. Let me give you a bit of a rundown on how Cassia has been changed outside of her basic abilities. No changes at 10, by the way. Just same heroics as you knew them. Some changes at 20.
They were phenomenal heroics. I don't think they really needed to be messed with. I love Cassia's heroics.
They thought it through in a really interesting way. Ring of the Leech at 4 is now very different. It's not about healing while things are blound. It's about basic attacks against your primary target heal for 15% of their damage, just because you can get auto attacks that split, was why they include that. If the enemy is blinded, this affects Lightning Fury and Fend. So Ring of the Leech at 4 no longer affects Lightning Ball or Ball of Lightning, which is huge, is huge. Because that's a really big heal for you. A great 1v1 moment. So we're going to see a huge amount of Valkyrie coming up just because that one simple change at 4. And I think that's so dynamic and cool.
Over the past 3 weeks, Valkyrie has had a higher win rate than Ball Lightning. Anyway, so this is like pre-rework. I was taking a look at her win rates before, basically looking back to the Tassadar rework. And
I think Valkyrie is a really cool drafting space now. White Mane, in particular, does a lot of standing still in the back, and it grabs the first character it hits and brings them forward. There might be some others, some immobile Kael'thas's and whatnot, but that's where my brain's kind of going. I really think Cassia should be about Valkyrie in this initial reaction, and the level 20 they gave it is really cool. The impaled hero has a full blind cast around them, and whenever a talent says they are blind, it means blinding light, like the full effect, the full lightning and all effect AoE goes off, and then it pushes people out of the way, silencing and rooting them for 3 seconds. Like, you basically make a hallway to this character and then bring them to you.
Yeah, it's very impactful. Very, very impactful. You just have to land your Valkyrie, but that's not a huge ask.
No, it's not impossible. And if you're thinking, in a drafted environment, it's a lot easier to do than say, like, let's get Tracer, who of course is running amok right now with her rework. I also want to, point you towards War Matron at 13 that allows Cassie to become protected while channeling Fend and for 1 additional second after the channel is completed. That is quite the way to dodge a Pyroblast, a Tracer Bomb, whatever have you. You just start fending and you get it done. So this may be a bug or maybe a new feature. I'm currently experiencing that my fend ends when I kill my primary target, which makes it much less viable as lane clear.
Oh, I didn't realize that's how it works.
It didn't previously. I would target one thing, usually that wizard in the middle, and then you'd continue to defend the whole lane. As of today, it was canceling when the wizard died.
Wonder if that's intentional or not.
I would assume not, because you want to complete your channel for the bonus protection.
Interesting.
So if you're interested in Cassia right now, ease of use, charge strikes at 1 increases your attack speed by 20%, meaning your stutter step is going to be a lot more Vala-like. It'll be more along the lines of what you expect out of Raynor with that weapon delay. Without doing that, you're taking those big, long steps to make sure you don't ruin your own avoidance. So charge strikes is your easy mode talent. I would not suggest a full auto attack build, though. It's way too easy to drop avoidance, which is your trait, and rather important. I'd say probably go along the lines of being very fluid in the early game and then invest in fend in the late game. So I like doing kind of a Q early, late fend. And that's how we're playing Zul right now. We're doing him as an early, well, he got nerfed, but it'll probably continue. We're seeing an early minion creating build and then going into scythes in the late game.
Yeah. Well, shall we talk about Tracer's rework?
Yes. The scandalous rework.
Yeah, well, it's interesting for sure. So the dev comments are kind of talking about the history of these types of heroes and how they can feel oppressive if they're overtuned, and so on and so forth. And that's something we saw with Tracer and Genji around the same time where they got kind of reined in. So they did say that with her rework, they wanted to focus on trying to make her feel a bit more self-reliant while also giving opponents more time to react to her recall and lock her down. And so what we're looking at is that her range has been reduced. Her damage has been reduced. Pulse bomb charge gain from basing attacks was increased by 25%. Max health went up. Health regen, and let me just triple check. Yeah, okay. It says right here, 5.3 to 2.71. Kyle, I've never seen, in the history of us doing this show, which has been since Attack Alpha, I've never seen a health adjustment where the health regen wasn't adjusted by basically the same amount if we're looking at how it changed in a percentage-based form. So health went up. Health regen was basically halved. It was cut in half. Why?
Well, it plays into as for like math and why this particular change happened. I don't know. I've never really felt, maybe outside of like Laws of Hope Johanna or, maybe Dahak or something, that I'm just sitting around being like, oh, this sweet health regen. Guys, can I have a minute? Because this health regen feels great. Yeah. It's unnoticeable in most cases. Yeah. But what we've done here with these changes is made a less damaging Tracer on direct engage and kind of a triple blink, hit you in the face, fire, recall out kind of way, to a Tracer that has a lot more frequent bombs, which means there is counterplay in a healer sort of way to help those people with the bombs on them. I think this also means with them moving up the level 7 reload talents that we are going to see a lot better Tracers, because frankly, it was just really hard to be a good Tracer. You would change in the late game the way you played to an extent, and your bombs would be infrequent but very strong. Now they're frequent, but much less so, and a bigger part of your kit. It's very buzzy, natty. She needs a bee skin because she's just being a busy bee, and I think that's really enhanced by her regen here, which is my understanding of why health regen was reduced. In Alterac Pass, you're going to engage on the enemy, do your business, hit Kael'thas in the face, throw a bomb on him, and then probably disengage to go farm a lane and get your health back up, which you can now do in a decent amount of time. Tracer's not a soak hero. She doesn't have great lane clear. She can help herself out a little bit in the late game. I would definitely suggest you take the armor, though, because it's going to make you the armor decreased 15%, which just makes you deal, I believe the math is spot on, 15 armor decrease on the enemy now equals the damage of the pulse bomb. No, that was reduced by 20%, but we're getting really close to regaining what she used to have.
Yeah, so I realize it's scandalous. How do you feel about it? I mean, like your basic attacks not being as powerful as they used to be, although fairly minor nerf in that regard, but also losing range and having more of the, again, mentioning the power pie shifted over to pulse bomb.
I think it's good. I think this is really healthy. We're going to have a lot more Tracer players. The character is more available to more people. You aren't a bruiser, but you're sustaining yourself in a very real way for an extended period of time. And you have a secondary opportunity to go heal yourself and still participate in the game if you're not old Tassadar supported. You don't have to bring a Zarya along. You don't need double support to make it. That would be a mistake with the amount of damage she's dealing right now. You could get top damage. Like old Mephisto, you can get top damage. You can get top damage on Stitches. It may not be effective damage. And that's where the Tracer mains in High League are truly upset. because they would surgically go in, weave through, and get one character dead, blink out, and recall out, and it didn't matter if they lost health or if they had to go farm a lane or they were under supported or what have you. They did their job already. So Tracer mains don't see what the point of this is, much like when Zarya came out. They increase her damage, everyone's going to love Tracer, and we're going to have to lower how much healing she's getting off her auto attacks, because that's part of her new trait. She is healing for 15% on all basic attacks. That means she just gets to participate more. She's more fun for the casual player.
So you like it because this takes her out of mounted up Alarak zone. She's just doing one thing all game, and then when she's not doing that thing, she's not really participating. Exactly.
Like, it's not great that Tracer might have to go work on that lane for a bit. She's not good at it, but there's a reason to do it. There's a reason to do other jobs. And in terms of like reusing assets, not even the right word, encouraging the use of things already made in this game, like Tracer, who is not, heavily picked. This is really, really solid. And I would definitely suggest, if you're new to Tracer, take the level 1 Tracer rounds talent. That increases your basic attack range by 10%. That'll make your life a lot easier. It reveals an area around them. That doesn't really matter too much. There's an easy build to get you going where everything's about more bombs, more life steal. And then we can transition out of that as time goes on.
This almost feels a little Chromie rework to me, because that was very controversial. But I feel like it had a happy ending where Chromie's kind of figured it out and became weirdly aggressive.
Yeah. Seen on the battlefield, too.
Yeah.
It's not so different from if we were to change Triumvirate. There is a fantasy associated with being out of range of people, and Tracer's rework here does strike a lot of people as, well, what's the point? Why would I play Tracer? Am I imperious now? I'm supposed to go in and like hit as many people as possible and keep on living? That's not why I played Tracer. And we can't argue with that. That's a feeling. That's their main, and it may be lost.
Oh yeah, it's something I sympathize with greatly. It's something you hear talked about in game design a lot. Hell, even across multiple Blizzard games, the whole like people who like change versus people that don't like change. Like, there is a consideration to be made for the players that like the way certain things are, right? That might be the main reason that they're playing the game, or the whole thing of like how much change, how often is actually right, because what about returning players? As much as we don't consider them, I feel, all that often, it is a consideration. So yeah, I feel for you if this is the type of rework that really puts you off, because I've been through it. We all have.
We can't help but look at stats right now too and see that she's at 56%, whereas Cassia, who everyone's like, oh, this is nice, welcome to the game, Cassia, is at 37% right now win rate. Tracer clearly doing really well among those who probably haven't played Tracer in a while. But as I was with the Heroes Hearth guys and hanging out with Mockery, who's a Tracer main and been declaring her dead since Tassadar was reworked, this did not land well for a Tracer main. And that is perfectly understandable, because that surgical moment is gone. All they got to do is give her more damage, and she'll be everywhere. So they got to move very carefully.
Yeah, I mean, Cassie is literally again, since the Tassadar rework, because that's what I've been looking at, is like 3 weeks back. Last place is where Cassie has been in the most recent meta we find ourselves in. So needed the help. Tracer was doing well, so interested to see where she ends up.
Yeah, and I like the recall counterplay. It's very long. If you're used to old Tracer, you're going to feel like you're just piecing out for, this is now recall increased to 1.25, but that's a 66.6% increase on how long you're not going to exist. And it can leave you exposed, and it can let Malfurion line up a root on you, which is healthy.
Yeah, it feels very long, for sure. But that's it for our reworks. We're into just pretty standard balance adjustments from here on out. So just kind of going in order. Artanis starts us off in the bruiser category. Now, Artanis has been riding like that 50% win rate line for quite a while now. Hasn't been too oppressive, hasn't been too terrible, but, isn't really setting the world on fire. And I believe, did we mention it? You know what? I think I saw it in our patron Discord. Someone brought it up when we were talking about heroes that are feeling a little moldy. Maybe we need to dust them off. And Artanis got mentioned. And so he's getting a health increase. The shield amount on his trait is being increased as well. These are very minor. Health went up by a little over 2%, and the shield went up by a little over 2%.
But it's something. These are touches that are going to mean a lot more Artanis play. And he is exposed out there, and getting that shield is really nice. Seasoned Marksman was removed, however, it was replaced with Protector of Ire, where basic attacks against enemy heroes increase Artanis's attack damage by 0.1, but a takedown grants a whole 1%. I saw it was 256 stacks in a game, and we're all like, no, who let Artanis hit themselves? That's 25% increased damage. It's something.
It is.
He spent all game getting that number and he still lost, but it's something.
Yeah, I feel like this could honestly go up a little bit. Right? Like I realize it's an infinite quest, right? But you're right. Like you have to invest a lot into actually getting these stacks. And is it enough? Is the question. So but yeah, I think there's some good changes in here.
Yeah, Artanis's will be more powerful for a bit. I'm afraid of returning to swappy hooky land, which could happen because of this, where you run both like a Garrosh and an Artanis, and it's just all about grabbing and pulling people around. It could get really gross out there. He's got some cute new talents, like they did a combo with, I believe it was Warp Sickness, and baked that into Chrono Surge. Reactive Parry is better, his block talent, and you might be able to sort of weave in 3 stacks of it together if you're doing a butcher sort of engage. They haven't addressed the amateur opponent issue, and that's just what people take. So I'm curious to see where we're going to go with Artanis. I think this is the padding in the meantime.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, to your Garrosh point, what was really stopping people from already just pairing Artanis with Garrosh?
I don't remember why we stopped exactly.
You can still swap. The swap has always been there. I'm not really seeing. I mean, as cool as baking Warp Sickness into Chrono Surge is, I don't think that's the only reason you're just now going suddenly Garrosh with me.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that we touched Artanis and then we touched Brightwing, and that combination of swap polymorph is so oppressive.
Well, you said Garrosh, not Brightwing, sir. There's a big difference. One is a murderous ball of death, and the other is Garrosh.
Yeah, it could bring on. I believe there was this old, basically study done, probably a college essay, because people love World of Warcraft and as their college essays. There was an accidental balance patch to a League of Legends character. It didn't exist, but that character's playtime and win rate went up dramatically. He was not buffed in the least, but public perception made it so. And I think with Brightwing and Artanis being touched together, we're going to see that playstyle return.
Fair. Well, let's move on to Deathwing, who's finding himself under the nerf knife once again, with a 3.5% reduction to his health and regen. Also, Cataclysm had the periodic damage reduced by it's 10 to 9, so it's a 10% reduction. It's 10% though. Like, I know it's 10 to 9 doesn't seem like much, but it's periodic damage. That's how it actually is affected. So that's actually a sizable reduction in damage.
They targeted, again, the sort of main build. I like that they went through and said, we're taking some power out of Skyfall because you're already healing, you're already interrupting objectives. Let's let that be Skyfall, and we'll put the landing cooldown reduction on Firestorm. I'm playing a bit of Deathwing right now, and maybe reducing my health as a buff at this point because of all the giant killers people draft into you. It feels like we're kicking him a little bit, but this is definitely a Diablo situation where the perception is we still have to ban Deathwing. I don't think he needed these nerfs, but now he should be pushed into an area where we're not constantly banning him.
I'm so ready to live in a world where we learn how to just play against the damn Deathwing in a draft environment.
It can be a lot. It's a lot of business flying around. He's global. He's big. If drafted poorly against the protect full flame build is amazing and extremely easy to do. I think he's playable now, is what I'm saying. You're gonna get him if you want to, and I think we can move away from banning him.
It took a while with Garrosh. This is reminding me of Garrosh. If you remember, like how long it took and how many adjustments it took before we started letting Garrosh through. Might finally reach that point.
I welcome that point.
Yeah. Dahak is up next, getting a damage increase on Dark Swarm, just a little over a 4% increase. And then some talent incentivization.
What I like about the Dahaka change here is, one, paralyzing enzymes is a really interesting talent pickup now. So we have Feeding Frenzy at 7, where your basic attacks would reduce your drag cooldown. Paralyzing enzymes was kind of baked together with the drag duration and a slow following it. And that's really, there's a nice little reward risk kind of situation going on at 7 for Dahaka, where you can say, I miss a lot of my drags, but I'll do it more frequently. Or, hey, I hit a lot of my drags and I'd like to do it more frequently. Or it's all about one big pick and then we finish it off with paralyzing enzymes. And for those of you who really enjoy the race car Dahaka, there is a armor talent for you at level 16 now.
Yeah, it's called Pack Leader. 7 is interesting because it's one of his more diverse talent pick levels. Feeding Frenzy and Symbiosis kind of vying for the pick. If we're looking at stats from the Tassadar rework. So kind of curious that they're doing that. But like you said, paralyzing enzymes being moved up gives you something to think about.
Yeah, we haven't been doing tons of Dahaka, or at least in my league, I don't see him very often. I think Deathwing's global ate his lunch a little bit in terms of the dinosaur man who goes global. But I think ultimately we stopped seeing Dahaka when movement speed happened and globals became less valuable. Brightwing's got her own value. Falstad's got his own value, but Dahaka has always been the global hero. And there are some bad bushes for him too on some maps, so he's just not allowed.
Yeah. I still see him from time to time, but not nearly as much as I used to. Probably rewind about a year ago. I think at one point I was like, I need to learn Dahaka. Dahaka seems to be the tool for the job, and I never did because I tried and I was just like, this hero is not for me. But we've moved on from there for sure. Imperius is up next. Just level 13, Pathetic Mortals. This is the least picked talent by far at level 13 for Imperius. Has additional functionality. It now also reduces the movement speed of enemy heroes hit by Celestial Charge by 25% for a full 4 seconds. It's a long duration, even though it's not the greatest slow in the world. Yeah,
there is a cute Imperius build where you can basically accomplish a full-blown, like, continuous mosh pit using Impaling Light, which reduces the cooldown of your Celestial Charge, and now, stacking some slows on top of it, and as well as reducing their damage if they do escape. He is fixed in his Q. You can cancel that stand-up animation after the lunge, which is really nice, and they didn't document it either, but it seems that they fixed up the Angelic Armaments bug that was making the rounds.
Which is, I think, the bigger news if you're a regular Imperius player.
I didn't see it once. Nobody picked Imperius, and I'm the only Imperius player I know in that way, so I didn't pick him because I didn't want to be, bug accused or bug adjacent, but no one did it. I heard, like, Gold League, it was just everywhere and people were dying to it because it was hard to aim. You couldn't actually pull this off except for maybe aiming at buildings. But it was a bug and it was exploitable.
Makes sense. Ragnaros is up after Imperius. Another one I think
got mentioned when we were talking about kind of sprucing up older heroes, but it's all on Sulfurious Smash. I got a really nice looking cooldown reduction. Is now in that sweet 1 minute mark on the cooldown of Sulfurious Smash, down from 80 seconds. Also got a mana cost reduction, and damage to enemy hit by its outer area was increased quite a bit. It turns out to be just over a 25% damage increase on the kind of AoE damage of it.
This is twisted and evil. I applaud the balance designer, but do you want to be smashed? Because this is how you get smashed. Like, I don't want to return to that I'm taunted Ragnaros Smash world. There was a dialogue we had built with this video game where you see Ragnaros and you go, oh, lava wave, late game, and we all go, and agree with each other. And when you see Rag come in, you're not as scared because he's not going to destroy you if you stand still for a hot moment. And I am terrified of returning to a Sulfurious Smash world. The shock will wear off and we'll get better about wiggling, but ooh.
All right, but we haven't talked about this on the show, Kyle. But what do you say right now to a Ragnaros that uses Molten Core?
You say not today. Surround him and get his buns because he's weaker than normal building.
Well, I say thank you. That's what I say to Ragnaros.
Okay, there you go.
When he becomes a structure. To me, I think Ragnaros,
because I'm playing Cassia.
I feel like Ragnaros lost some power by like osmosis because he's now less powerful than the freaking fort or keep was that he was replacing. Which is like me, he's just as powerful as he was, but I would rather fight a Ragnaros than a fort. And so I think Ragnaros needs a little bit of love, not a lot of bit of love, and this might be a lot of bit of love. So I share your concerns.
No, and we use in high league lava wave because we're soaking efficiently to maintain a pushed out lane. So if we win an objective, we can go core. In low leagues, it's about emergency soak, covering the lane that nobody actually covered in the first place. And now Sulfurious Smash can be a very real option for that higher league play.
I did.
So this is a really healthy choice. I'm just surprised. Staring down the barrel of it, the Blizz designer said, I want this done to me.
Maybe it's a conspiracy. You don't know. Maybe they're a Ragnaros player. Maybe
right there sitting there playing Rag, and they're like, "This cooldown's too long."
It's a little. I know it's AZ Jackson, right? We're assuming the Z is the middle name, but a little known fact: AZ is actually his first name, and AZ's middle name is Ragnaros.
Yep, that's the truth of it.
Yep. Zool, this is another big one we've kind of waiting to see on as we've been. It feels customary at this point. At the beginning of a game of Heroes of the Storm, we make an offering to the Heroes Draft Gods and we ban Zool and Deathwing. And this is what we have been doing since forever. It feels like. So Zool is under the nerf knife again, alongside his always banned brother Deathwing. Basic attack damage is down 195. That's a 5% decrease. Spectral Scythe, the damage has been reduced from 210 to 200. That's slightly less than a 5% decrease. The damage done when Skeletal Warriors die on the Ray Skeleton trait has been reduced by 8%. Jailers at level 4, very, very popular talent. The movement and attack speed bonus was reduced from 40 to 30%. That's a really big nerf, actually. That's a 25% reduction to that talent's damage. Echoes of Death saw a major nerf to the damage of the additional scythes. This is the talent that spawns 2 additional scythes when you Spectral Scythe. They used to do 60% damage of what your Spectral Scythe was doing. They're now only going to be doing 40% damage. That is a huge nerf, Kyle. And then finally, Decrepify at 16. The slow amount has been reduced from 40 to 30%. I think 30% is still a respectable slow.
This was just a targeted attack on Zool's main build, and it has succeeded. So, as I mentioned earlier, it was early minions, late scythes. Zool was at a 92%, if my memory serves, ban rate last week, and now as of the patch, he's gone down to 72 or so. So he's getting through. We're looking at a lot more blue builds now. We were previously doing that half early game, late game thing. Now it seems like weaken 40% less damage for 3 seconds is taking the place of our Decrepify slow in terms of turning around a team fight. The damage decrease will also lead us towards more Poison Nova builds, which I think is healthy. Now we're making a choice between control and damage, and I like that. I got to play Azul yesterday. He honestly didn't feel any different because I was playing an off-tank style with Wall of Bones, and your shot call on your Bone Prison is still amazing. So no problem there. And we didn't decrease his survivability, so he didn't get more gankable. A fine nerf.
I would really like to get into a world where we're like going down the jailer route specifically to lane, right? And you're going blue build if you think you're in a team fight Zul territory, but I think it's going to be difficult to get there because I think at some point one is always going to be better than the other, or feel more impactful than the other.
Right. With this balance change, the Grim Scythe business is in 61% popularity with the highest win rate, and that's going to be tough for Zul to recover from that stigma. Overdrafting a frontline, maybe. Certainly, it helps you take camps and whatnot, and it's not all about being in lane. I think things may settle. People want to play Zul, and as maybe we talked about earlier too with Cassia, people want to main single characters in this game and really dive in, find the nuance, and that drafting slot for blue build is just too small.
Yeah. So, well, shall we move on to healers?
Yes.
Cool. Anduin. Anduin's in there. According to the devs, his level 13 talents are a little too similar, and they're adding reasons for players who choose one talent over the other outside of how they want to gain movement speed. And we also saw Holy Reach and Desperate Prayer messed with as well, but the majority of this is level 13, Speed of Pious, Enchanted Boots, and Push Forward all getting changed. So, I need some time with this one. Not the biggest Anduin main, but I do spend a lot of time fighting alongside and against Anduins. So I want to see how this plays out.
From what I've seen, Anduin's think 13 is a lot more fun now, and that's what matters.
Yeah. Brightwing, though, something I think you and I are both going to have opinions about. According to the devs, she is slightly underperforming compared to other healers, so they're buffing up aspects of her kit that make her a unique choice to put onto a team. Polymorph is having the slow increase. It's going to a full 30% slow, up from 25. Pixie Dust is having the spell armor increase from 25 to 30. Phase Shift is getting 10 seconds knocked off of its cooldown, so it's a sub 1 minute cooldown on Phase Shift. And the healing got increased to 25% maximum health. Whew. Oh, this is spicy, Kyle.
Yeah. And you know who likes maximum health heals, who survives for a long time when he's at low health? It's Garrosh. And when he tosses you and he stuns you and you polymorph it on the other side, you can really feel that extra 5%. I think Brightwing is really good right now.
I was already falling back in love with her because you and I have been playing together a little bit more, and I have been forced onto the support role a little more often lately. So I'm stoked as hell about this.
You should be. I think she's really solid. That spell armor, the heal amount. Naturally, they went through and reduced hypershift so that you weren't getting these bigger heals with a reduced cooldown more often, and that's healthy. Just Brightwing, back. There's nothing else more to say. Does she compete with Rhaegar or Alex Straza, who's currently on top? They do such different jobs.
Yeah, very different. But I think that's okay. It's kind of what I find really cool about support is how different they are. So, I think that's totally fine. Weird that Alex Straza is really on top.
I mean, we're dealing with day 1.5 stats right now, so let's not go too crazy on it.
Oh, okay? You're filtering by the most recent. Yeah, take that with a giant grain of salt.
Yeah.
And then Deckard getting a gentleman's health increase, we'll call it. But Scroll of Identity quest requirement reduced from 16 to 14 enemy heroes hit. Ruby having the cooldown reduced from 20 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Ruby's super cool now and is available for every cast of Herodric Cube. You stack that with perfect gems later on, where you get cooldown reduction of all gems to 5 seconds and the cooldown of Herodric Cube by 6 seconds. And you're looking at a lot of tiny potions laying around.
Yeah. It's this is cool. This is one I haven't seen. I haven't tried Deckard, and I haven't played alongside a Deckard, but that looks super powerful.
It's the fun too. Like the laying out potions is very tactical. It's really fun to have Ruby be in such an available place that you are making that much on the battlefield.
Yep. And then we have to mention Lornado had 10 seconds knocked out of its cooldown. Lornado's every 30 seconds, Kyle.
Okay. I think that's a good place for it. It is. If we're going to all be trashing on Black Hole for being bad, like Lornado is not dramatic compared to Stay a While and Listen, which is a 70-second cooldown.
Yeah. And then we're still so much to talk about. Range, melee, just assassins in general. Who's sticking out to you?
We have to mention Alarak first.
Yeah. You got to be mounting up less?
I mean, it's an interesting thought. They're trying to add some talent diversity at 1. Sustaining power wasn't really a thing, and the heal off lightning wasn't all that important. We weren't running solo lane Alarak. He doesn't have the lane clear for it. And then you have to use all your engage abilities, your damage abilities to move yourself around to dodge the various things your counter bruiser assassin is doing. So we gave him a new talent, Overwhelming Power. After hitting an enemy hero with Discord Strike, Alarak gains 40% attack speed, and his basic attacks heal him for 50% of the damage dealt for 4 seconds. So yes, there might be a world where an Alarak, looking at his auto attack damage, says, "This is delicious. Why haven't I been doing this?" Stops mounting and plays in a new style. I would love to see that. I think but he just looks cool with his blades. I love Psy blades, and they're red and they're great. It probably won't affect the greater Alaraks, and because of his trait, his lane clear is not strong enough to be in the solo lane. So this is not an Alarak solo lane talent, even though it kind of looks like it.
Okay. Gotcha. And that was, I believe, the only melee assassin that was messed with, which was interesting considering the highlight that melee assassins got in the AMA last week. But just Alarak for now.
So when it comes to range assassins, it was all just a lot of mage cleanup, and I think very much inspired by Tassadar, in that we have this new sexy mage, and we want other lesser's not even the right word, but other mages that may have fallen by the wayside with the dominance of Li Ming, Kael'thas, to get a little of a bump up. And we're looking at Chromie, Jaina, Li Ming doesn't count here. We'll talk about that in a moment. Orphea and Probius.
Yeah, they've all been kind of shined up. And I was about to say, I still don't think there's been anything wrong with Jaina during all this. I think Jaina's still been a really good pick, and it appears that they more or less agree with me because they barely touched her.
Yeah, Jaina was about encouraging a level 16 talent. Yeah, Snowstorm, which is, I mean, to me, it's the I don't play a lot, but I like Blizzard and I want it to look real cool, so I'm going to pick Snowstorm and increase its damage. It's decent, but this is not your dynamic Northern Exposure or Numbing Blast Jaina play.
No, but it is a ton of extra damage on Blizzard now.
It is a lot of damage, yes. And I have been beaten by this build multiple times. My brain does say, well, I mean, you could have been a little more stylish about it. Like, at least beat me with something that, wasn't just pure damage, but I'm held still by other players. Ring of Frost, siege damage goes up. It's not an awful talent. We just make fun of it because it's less work.
Yeah. Chromie, base level Dragon's Breath damage going up, and then some talent cleanup. But let's talk about Li Ming, because they're swapping the cooldowns of her heroics. And I found the dev comments interesting, because I think they paint like the perfect picture of this, right? Because they've said, hey, as this hero has evolved, Wave of Force is just more and more consistently powerful because it provides burst damage, CC, and it's an instant cast. Whereas Disintegrate, you're leaving yourself open, right? You plant your feet, and you're shooting out a very obvious beam of damage. And And it's another one of those things that's like, oh, I didn't really think about it in that way. I do like Wave of Force, but I've never compartmentalized it in my head as burst, CC, instant. Like, what's not to love? And so Wave of Force now has the 30-second cooldown, and Disintegrate now has the 20-second cooldown.
The odd thing about this is that Li Ming's were already going Disintegrate over the last 2 weeks. It gave them lane clear, it gave them poke, but mostly it just encouraged them to already stay at that range that they were already doing with their orb build. And when we look at the difference between a orb build at the 4 and 7 and Wave of Force, we see a rather distinct difference in like how far those are going to go. You had to step up to Wave of Force. So I agree that the burst damage on the other side did allow you to do a sort of calamity, blah, 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 yeah, kill them all thing. And this is probably the right call. It's really an awkward time to be investing in a more range-based Li Ming. And they were using Disintegrate for lane clear, actually. So all our talk about giving Li Ming lane clear, she got it. She rediscovered Disintegrate, and we'll only see more of that.
Yeah, on that 20-second cooldown, it's not really, you're not really losing out on much.
Yeah, so it's everywhere. She's going to be everywhere.
I've been brushing mine off as well, man.
It's a good thing to have. Do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to love Li Ming, so happy to be back on her. So I'm seeing a weird amount of Asmodan. So like, dude, I'm like landing everything. It's wonderful. It's great.
I think that's still the remnants of the call for help. It's leaking away fast. Zebos, Asmodans, Abathur, Cheesery. It's all decreased dramatically over the last week.
I haven't been seeing a lot of Zebos, and frankly, I'm happy.
He's passive, you know. It's a long road to 20.
Very unimpactful.
Yeah, I love him though.
Yeah,
love playing him.
Yep. Orphea, some really nice cleanup on her base kit, cooldown down on Shadow Waltz as well as the mana cost, a significant damage increase on Chomp, and then they added a slow to Dread, which I think is rad.
Yes.
I think it's a modest slow. It's 25%, right? But still, like, it didn't have one before.
No, but I think the really big deal here is that when we looked at things like Executioner or Rainer Ace in the hole, it limited our picks into Jaina and the like. And giving a slow of 2 seconds to Dread means you're comboing a lot more together. I believe there's something else here. And increases the slow amount of Dread's eruption by 15%. Is a level 1 talent now with Growing Nightmare as the reward on that quest. So that'll be a 40% slow. That's getting pretty dramatic. Orphea is up 7% right now. Not a very popular pick, but I love it. I know I'm harshing on Li Ming. Have fun, Li Ming. I think it's really cool that Probius included, all of our mages right now feel very, very viable. And you can kind of pick your flavor without feeling like you're going to restrict Rainer's good day.
I like it. Orphea's a lot of fun. And like, if there's any mage that I think can kind of fill a similar slot to Li Ming, like if she gets banned out or you can't get her on the other side, I think Orphea is the closest to it. In terms of like skill shotting and being, you know, in tricky survivability, right? Doesn't have the reset that Li Ming brings, which is a huge portion that I'm leaving out because it's detrimental to my analogy here. but other than that, I'd like to see Orphea kind of step up to the bat in that regard. So, and I've been seeing more and more of her myself, and it's like to have an excuse to play her more.
Definitely a character I've wanted to learn for a long, long time. I'd say give me that Herald of Nazoth skin for her. Like get her looking all culty and crazy and give her a squid face. I'm down. I'm all over that character.
How does she not have one?
We did the Raven thing. I think she's probably very asset heavy as well, kind of along the lines of Ragnaros. So she probably is not going to see skins for a while.
I mean, her model though isn't really. I feel like Ragnaros is the animated lava, right? Like that's what's wild. Like you could give Orphea just like a different head.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think I'm thinking more along the lines of like Jaina, who is a person. And then there's this giant box and Orphea's back and they're like, oh, like, and Chomp's there and like, never mind. I'm going to make a Jaina skin. I don't blame him for that.
Fair.
Orphea looks like a lot of work.
And then on Probius, a lot of talent cleanup, but a heroic got 5 seconds knocked off of its cooldown. Null Gate, 25-second cooldown now.
Yeah, you can. Gatekeeper at level 20 allows you to have more than one null gate at a time, so you can tower defense.
So you can have more than one, and it's on a 25-second cooldown.
Yeah, so you could actually like set up your whole base with all these various walls and stuff. I mean, granted, that sounds kind of a losing situation, and the turrets aren't lasting forever, but now we're getting there, Garrett. I think we push. Now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot. Let's get infinite photon cannons.
I don't want them to die until they're destroyed.
Yep. You can limit how many I have.
Yep.
That'll be the exchange. You can let me have 2 or something.
Kyle, you're gonna make me go to war with people who already like how Probius plays. But let's just take the whole power pie away from his Q and put it into photon cannon.
Yeah, I mean, we got this WQ thing going on, and it's really like fantasy-wise, it's super cool that like he's almost building a building, and then oh my god, let's fix it. Garrett, warp rift summons photon cannons if it sits there too long. Because that's the fantasy of what's going on. He's blowing up his building.
Oh, he's
rifts.
warping in. He's warping in things.
He's warping in the building.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, what if it was an activate? You could like activate you could move a cannon to a warp rift.
Okay, yeah, that's cute. That's cute.
Work with me here, Kyle.
This is really extreme. I think we can both agree that we're making a step in the right direction here. Maybe if you want to talent it, that's okay. You've got a level here at 16 that's nothing but warp talents. Like I take tower defense, and what have you got for me past 10? That makes me feel like I'm playing tower defense. I need it. That's the fantasy.
Yep.
That's fantasy.
Yep. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, that is it. That is your balance update. Obviously, we only highlighted some things. There's a lot of talents that have been changed or tweaked that we did not go into a deep dive, but we would be here for 7 hours if we did. I'm sure somebody out there would love that. But we have.
Oh, yeah. No, I do a 3-hour D&D show. You know, like people love that stuff. I'm glad we can be with you with the time we have, but it's also efficient because not all these characters we all play. Time is not infinite.
I am also of the opinion that it would be kind of boring to go talent by talent by talent by talent by talent by talent.
Sure, we jazzed it up, but let's then speaking of making entertaining, let's jazz it up at the end here with our recap and talk about the winners and the losers of this big old patch, at least in day one.
And we're gonna say reworks don't count, right? It's too early to tell if Cassia or Tracer are winning or losing.
Right, that Cassia win rate is
unless you're Tracer main, then clearly you have a very strong opinion. But
and you think she's dead in the water. Everyone else is having a good time, so don't yell at the kids enjoying summer fun. But buffs,
why are you yelling at people for saying inting, Kyle?
Okay, are they having summer fun though? I don't know, man. All right, we had so many buffs in comparison, only 2 nerfs. Artanis, Dahak, Imperius, Ragnaros, Anduin, Brightwing, Deckard, Alarak, Chromie, Jaina, Li Ming, Orphea, Probius, and Tassadar. I'm a little generous on the Li Ming there. You can take it either way, but I believe it's a buff right now in terms of how we're playing her. And the nerfs are Deathwing and Zool.
Oh yeah. As expected. So who do you think the biggest winner is, Kyle?
It's a tough choice. I really, really like the Brightwing update. I think that is a very powerful amount of business to give her. I think Artanis could be kind of the sleeper hit here. Chromie is so much work to learn. I think her buff is frightening. Chromie in general getting buffs is just is haunting. So I'm gonna go with Brightwing for ease of use and how it's gonna affect me. I'm Artanis curious.
You're Artanis curious. Okay, I dig. I'm with you on the Brightwing. I think we might be in a world where because of Brightwing and the type of hero she is and the power, like a lot of the power is put in the phase shift, right? Phase shift and pixie dust. I think your average player they pick Brightwing, they float around, they AoE heal. So because there was nothing put on Soothing Mist, I'm not sure we're going to see a massive bump in win rate on Brightwing. But I think if you're good at Brightwing and you're using Phase Shift on cooldown and as much as possible to just get heals out and, you know, doing your pixie dust business, I think you're going to see a major increase in your throughput.
Oh, and chat here, let us know who you think the big winner of this patch is outside of the reworks. When it comes to the loser, I got to put it on Deathwing. Deathwing is kicked a little bit while he's down, but it's the Diablo treatment. Hopefully this means he's now available to play.
Yeah. I hope so as well. So Brightwing Artanis is biggest winner for you?
Definitely. And we got votes for like Deckard. Like some of the Ruby thing is really, really cool. For me, Deckard is a passion pick when I would need a healer, and right now that's Malfurion for me. Brightwing has a spot in my draft brain that I really like her being encouraged for. But Zul's fine. Zul, he's great. I think they attack the right things, and Zul's gonna be a-okay.
I think I'm gonna go with Orpheus and Li Ming as my winners. I think Disintegrate. Ooh, that's nice. It's very nice. And then Orphea getting a little slow, and just like a surprising amount of Orphea's base kit was buffed. So get out there and play your Orphea. I'm really excited about it. And honestly, after our talk, Ragnaros might be. I'm pretty afraid of Ragnaros now after we talked through it.
Yeah, it'll encourage bad play for a while, but those who can find a place for it in organized play or just a team with enough CC will find a place. Right now, Li Ming is down, Ragnaros is down in win rates, and this is all to be expected when we do switcheroos like this.
Yeah. And who are you going to give Biggest Loser award to?
Oh, Deathwing. Deathwing's a man. Yeah. If we're listening to the internet voices, I think we do Tracer, but Cassia looks worse right now, so who knows? We'll report back next week.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how this shakes out. So I guess, Kyle, the only thing, that's it. That ties a bow on this summer's time and the Livens inting. That's what I have to tell you.
Exactly.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Write in, folks. Let us know what you think. itncast@gmail.com. If you're supporting us on Patreon, you can drop us a message in the Patron Discord. So go check it out over at patreon.com/ITN. Get yourself some bonuses like access to that Discord. Sign up for our monthly Patron Bonanza games. Have some fun with us. It's a good time. Also, huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, Chris K., Mike C., and Eric C. Thank you for the support, everybody. You can catch us live Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time right here at twitch.tv/AMoveTV, and you can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. Good thing to do in case we ever have time changes. But before we go, Kyle, you do a lot more than just ITN. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson, playing solo queue Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays with the Heroes Hearth gang in a full 5-stack. It's a nice tour of force across the game as we enjoy all the various aspects of it over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. And if you're not into Twitch or you prefer the more connoisseur environment, head over to youtube.com/Kyle Fergusson for individual game postings.
Rad. I'm
Daily.
Daily. Nice.
I mean, not weekends. Those don't count.
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. This and every other podcast I produce can be found over at amove.tv. I would highly recommend you go find Let's Talk About Star Wars, because we just posted our Clone Wars finale episode. And another little bonus you get right now, and we're really close to just making it a permanently monthly bonus. If we hit the next goal on our Patreon, Kyle, is a week sauce. We had a few episodes commissioned directly. And we got one more in the hopper that we're going to be recording it's not in the hopper because we haven't recorded it yet, but we're doing one more for this month. And I have a feeling, Kyle, we're going to have a lot of Star Wars things to talk about because Clone Wars. And you have removed yourself from underneath a rock and have seen Rise of Skywalker.
Well, it went up on Disney Plus. I removed myself from the parenting, and the movie theaters are closed anyway. So, like everyone.
Not when Rise of Skywalker was in theaters.
No, but wait, what? When did it come out? Right?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas.
I had a kid at Christmas. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's not the reason you didn't go.
Poor Flynn. I'm not going to leave Flynn.
No, that's not why you didn't go. You didn't go because
that movie's really. That movie's really long. At least MIB2 knew how to be short and bad.
I think it would have been better if it was shorter because they would have had to actually learn how to edit a film. But
that may be.
Hey, little preview.
All that on Weak Sauce coming up.
All that on Weak Sauce. Patrons, you get it first. If you're subscribed to Weak Sauce, you'll see it eventually. Other than that, folks, I've also been doing a short series on how to up your working remote game. If you want to hear all kinds of tips from me about how to get a little better with your video conferencing software, sound a little better with your microphone, look a little better with your camera, I have been asked to do a series for the Arrowhead Center over at the New Mexico State University. And this is on their channel. Had a few people who are like, it's not on A-Move. And I'm like, I never said it was. So go to youtube.com/Arrowhead Center. You'll see thumbnails and the uploads with my stupid face on it. And go watch it. The series is called Remotely. And you can find it over at youtube.com/Arrowhead Center. Go give it a look. I've been really happy with them. I get to flex a different muscle. It's more about writing a script and doing some video editing. I've been having a lot of fun with this, so go check it out.
They're very well made. Yeah,
Thanks,
I
man.
like the eye contact. I feel connected.
Well, that's what happens with the teleprompter. I can't help but look you in the eyes, Kyle.
I know. Well, it means a lot to me.
All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next week for the next Instead of the Nexus. But until then, good luck and have fun.
Take care.